instances like that in the future if Kamala Harris gets voted?
Yeah, it's a great. First of all, thank you for coming up to the mic. And I want to try to win you over as a liberal for Donald Trump. So you're going to give me a chance, okay?
I will, sir.
All right, okay. That is a true open mind. So I appreciate that. Number one, we have accepted 5% of the Haitian population in this country in the last couple of years. I have nothing against Haitians. I know some Haitians. We can all agree when you accept 5% of any country's population, in addition to all the other mass migration we have, it's too much, it's unsustainable, and a government must start from this core premise. It must have an obligation to fulfill a better life for its own citizens before it opens its border to non-citizens. It's a very, very basic, fundamental thing. And as I said earlier, everybody in this audience is seeing their future worse off than their parents for the first time since George Washington. That's a big deal. Usually, at least kids are as good, if not better, than their parents, and we have that broken. As far as Donald Trump goes, there are 3 things I want you to think about when voting for Trump. Number 1, home ownership. I imagine you want to own a home sometime in your life, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, in order to own a home, you would have to make $125,000 a year right now just to be able to get the mortgage. That doesn't count your medical expenses, your student debt expenses, your credit card expenses. When Trump was president, it was $75,000 a year. Number 2, as a liberal, I imagine you don't like war, right? You don't like endless war. Under Donald Trump, it was the first president in 40 years where we had no new wars. No Iraq war, no Syrian war, no Russian-Ukraine war. The final thing is the border. Under Donald Trump, the southern border was the most secure it was in American history, with border crossings at an all-time low. Under Kamala Harris, 10 million people have come across the southern border into this country. We have no idea who they are. They're coming into our communities. Crime is increasing. Can we sustain 10 million people? I want you guys to understand how many 10 million people is. We have 10 million illegals that have come to the country, which is the population of New Jersey. Okay, that is an unsustainable amount. And this is why we're seeing Bobby Kennedy, Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, people that are card-carrying Democrats, vote for Trump and voice support for Trump, because what's happening at the Democrat Party is this very sinister combination. It's a party of censorship, it's a party of war, a party of open borders that is against actual traditional liberal values.
I agree.
So which way are you leaning?
Can I get a hat?
That's a good answer. I love it. Thanks, man. God bless. Thank you. We must be very clear that the type of immigration that we support is when you follow our rules and you come on our terms, and that you do not break into a country uninvited and you try to cut.
Can I add something to that? The reason why he left, and a lot of people in Mexico do, is because of the political state. They have a government that isn't supportive of their constituents, and because of drug problems, their only choice was to move.
Yeah, I totally sympathize. That's not true. It's never the only choice to commit a crime, and we should not put up with it. And so it is an insult to other immigrants from Vietnam and Laos and Pakistan that have to wait decades in line to morally equivalate people that come in and just break in. Oh, I have an unstable country. Like half of the world's countries are unstable.
Yeah, but that's why we have the asylum seekers program,
which is heavily abused. So look, we just have to be very clear with this, is that if you come into the country uninvited, you have committed a crime and you are a criminal. And we could decide that we're not going to enforce our laws, or we can say that when you are a criminal, you should then be punished for that crime, aka sent back to your country of origin, because you were not invited. And it is an insult, again, to the Poles and to the Czechoslovakians and from the Senegalese and people all across the world that don't have the proximity or the luxury just to waltz into America. Yes, to live in Mexico, to be able to go 100 miles north and break into America. Do you know how many people in Pakistan would kill to be on that border? Do you think that you have a right to immigrate to America?
I think that I didn't have a choice. My grandparents made that decision for me.
And I'm not trying to attack your grandparents, but no one has a right to go to anybody else's country. You are invited. It is a privilege, not a right. I'm not saying we should have no immigrants, but immigration must be a net benefit for the American homeland and for the American citizen.
If we have the land and the resources to house them, it shouldn't be that big deal to bring in immigrants.
Really? Do you think that the American government should first have an obligation to citizens before foreigners?
Okay, I think we have an
answer
obligation.
the question. Yeah.
Here's the thing. yeah, we're obligated because we're citizens to have the rights that we have, but that doesn't mean we can't open up our borders
That's not
and
the
we
question.
have the process
Hold on a second.
to do so.
You, being a younger American, and everyone in the audience, is the
Yep.
first generation in American history to have it be worse off than your parents. So the social, and you agree with that, social contract, poorer, more expensive. So wouldn't it be rational for the American government to say, we're going to prioritize younger generation Americans that are American passport holders and citizens before those in another nation?
I don't want to say anything that offends people.
Do you feel proud of yourself for debating college kids who are unprepared to speak in front of an audience like yourself, right? Do you think that's a little bit silly?
Are you a voter?
I am a voter. I'm a
So
registered voter.
I vote and you vote. So I'm talking to voters of this country that will determine the future of Western civilization. That's what I'm doing here today. Yeah? How is it any different than a professor talking to you?
Then a professor talking to you? Who are you?
Well, important enough for you to come up to a microphone.
With the same degrees.
With lower test scores, though. Much lower. Every study of affirmative action, for example, the Harvard case showed that it was nearly 40% lower test scores for people of color versus their white male counterparts and Asian counterparts.
What causes that? Do you think it's just because people of color are more stupid?
No,
or,
of course not.
Right.
I mean, people of color come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds that don't prioritize education
So
as much.
how do we
But
fix
that's
those socioeconomic statuses?
Right, that's an interesting point. Not should we try to penalize white males that are competent to go run our systems and our institutions. So
Right.
those are two different things.
Right.
So what we're doing is our institutions are now becoming less excellent. Our country is not working like it used to because we basically told people that are very qualified and very competent that, sorry, we're not going to put a position for you here. For example, the U.S. Secret Service. Let me just give you one example, okay? We can all agree that protecting a president, whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, is super important, right? But now the Secret Service has said that we want to have 30% of all our agents be women, which, by the way, they have lower fitness criteria. So they have less pull-ups, less push-ups, slower mile time.
That's something that's due to your.
Hold on. Exactly. Yeah. No. But this is affirmative action, right?
Women will never be as strong as men, at least
Got
genetically.
It. So that's an interesting question.
So I think it should be something that's more ideologically based.
Will women be as good at engineering as men, person for person?
Not necessarily, but...
Okay, well then, how is that different than the Secret Service example?
Well, the problem is that...
Because the male mind is wired different than the female mind. By the way, men will never be as good... Hold on, I'll prove it to you. Men will never be as good at counseling or psychology sessions as women. Men will never be good at nursing or elementary school education as women. Women are far better gifted at micro topics, so individual connection, empathetic type conversations, healing people that past trauma and wound. Men are much better at macro topics, right? Trying to build a building, put a skyscraper up, trying to talk geopolitics. And I'll prove it to you. When you go and you see 5 women eating lunch, they're probably talking about micro topics, conversations they had, relationships, friendships. Men, they're talking about politics, sports, or the stock market.
That's not necessarily true.
Oh, yes. You guys all agree, right?
I mean, there's a reason
these are bimodal general truths, right? Of course there's exceptions, but
it's not a general truth, though. I feel like women have the capability of having political conversations.
Of course they do, but it's not the general wiring. You don't think that men are more likely to like contact sports, more likely to enjoy football, UFC, hunting?
I think that's because of a societal norm in general, over a lot of time.
No, come on, you're smarter than that. That's not true. So you think if you pick a random lady here that they'd be just as comfortable sitting and watching a 4-hour football game than they were to go get their hair done with their best girlfriend?
Well, I feel like...
So what is it about conservatives and this whole racism thing? You guys are always just saying that it's either not a thing or it's, just not in any of the institutions or the police department. But it seems that over the past 18 years, we've had several race riots. And the biggest one being in 2020. So it's how are we still denying segregation in a city where we can clearly see what fucking neighborhoods are white, which ones are black, which ones are Latino, and we know how we got there. So it's what is it with conservatives and admitting that there's a problem and not addressing it? Because it seems like you guys want to be obsessed with, the gender thing or the racism thing, and then you guys say, it's not here, it's not a big problem. But why are millions of people rioting every couple years?
So let me ask you a question.
We can say that it's Democrats and shit, right?
Well, let me ask you a
go
question.
ahead.
So what do you think is a bigger problem facing America, single fatherhood or racism?
Racism, by far, because racism gets people killed, not single fatherhood. I know that as a black person, I am far more likely to be arrested for expressing my view, whether I am a conservative or a liberal. And I've done it on both sides. And oh yes, I was
Well,
arrested.
you were probably being a
And
jerk. That's why you were
actually,
arrested,
and
not
that's the
because
best
of the
part.
color
And that's
of
the
your
best
skin.
part, right? That's the best part. I wasn't even being a jerk.
So out of the 530 murders in Chicago of the last year, how many were black on black crime?
Hey, I wasn't looking. But you know what I
Yeah,
do know?
well
But you
over
know, hey,
420 of them were black on black gang related crimes.
Sure.
How is that
Sure.
racism to blame for that?
Let's talk. So now, are we going to talk about over policing?
I'm sorry, sir. You're kind of
Would you like to-
demonstrating. You can't answer the question.
Would you like to talk about? I mean, we can talk about it. We can.
Okay.
Are you ready to address it, though?
Well-
are you ready to address it?
Yeah.
Because we can talk about black on black crime, but we need to talk about it as it pertains. We need to. Okay, let's talk about it, sis. I'm ready to talk about
All
it.
right, hold on. If we were a racist country, you'd say, Charlie, I can't go in a convenience store. Charlie, I can't go into school. No, we actually live in such a amazingly
if we're not
decent country
racist-
that, whoa.
Don't.
Let's not do that, okay?
All I did.
All right.
was speak. All I did was speak.
You're trying to pull it
Oh,
out of my
no.
Mostly peaceful, everybody. Mostly
I
peaceful,
wasn't.
okay?
I didn't. So
Let me
I
give you
guess
some
so.
examples of racism that
guess.
could be proven. How about affirmative action at this college that discriminates against Asian students and white students? How about affirmative action hiring practices in the federal government? We are such a decent, non-racist country. The best example that he has is to show that he was mistreated. And if he acted like this at the DeSantis event, I can see why he was kicked out of the DeSantis event.
Mr. Kirk, I am welcoming booze as saying I am a Marxist, I'm very left-leaning, but I'm here to find some common ground with you.
Okay.
Your critiques of the monopolistic tendencies of multinational corporations align very closely with my beliefs as viewing the world through a class lens as being the major axis of inequality in this country.
Yep.
My question is, as a member, a leader of a conservative organization that really condemns large government, how do you address this ever-growing power and these monopolistic tendencies without using the federal government and big government? I just would love
That's
to
a
know how you
good-spirited
propose
question. You have read your Marx. Good for you, because some people say they're Marxists and they haven't. So look, I think the Marxists are wrong on a lot. We could talk about that in a second. But the Marxists, their fascination with class is not wrong. And there is a place where class warfare is legitimate and ugly and cruel, and that powerful people are trying to stomp on people that don't have as much as they have. Do I think it's as plain and simple as Marx and Engels put out? No, obviously, that's not my position. I'll be curious to get your thoughts as a Marxist of why we talk about race all the time, because that will tell me what kind of Marxist you are, but not right now. So to answer your question, the answer needs to be to try to pursue market-based solutions. Not be afraid to use the government to break up big monopolies like Google. Not be afraid to use antitrust authority. I think we can both agree, though, crony capitalism or cronyism is awful and wrong, and that entrepreneurial, bottom-up focused solutions is a beautiful thing. Where we will disagree, though, is that if you are a Marxist, and you seem too sweet to be a Marxist, so I'll put that aside, but do you believe by definition that the entrepreneurial activity will result in exploitation and will result in the concentration of one person benefiting from the other? This is where I disagree. I think a portion of American economic activity, yes, is big companies exploiting or lying to people. But the vast majority of economic activity happening in America is beautiful. It's voluntary exchange of both parties benefiting. It's the local small business serving a meal to somebody in Santa Barbara. It's a local hotel that is able to have somebody with a great experience. It's somebody that starts a taxi cab company to be able to provide for their family. So I think that we bash markets way too over generally, and I would love your thoughts on that. Do you agree that most economic activity in America is probably done voluntarily and is actually beneficial?
Not anymore. I think because so much industry has gone overseas with certain trade agreements,
Hey, you're speaking my language.
It's usually like very large corporations that dominate employment in America. So I don't think small businesses are doing very well, especially after the pandemic.
No, that's true. I don't think they're doing well, but I think still the volume of economic activity is largely not rooted in exploitation right now in America. What do you think about that?
I agree to disagree.
Okay, got it. So think about that, because I do think that exploitation happens, but largely I think that there still is this amazing foundation of goodness in our markets of most people that are not trying to game somebody, but instead offer a service, and most people that are willing to trade their value, their time for that other service. And I don't want to lose that. And the Marxists, in its most pure sense, at the eradication of private property, we would lose that. So let me just ask, can we agree on one thing as we close this question out? Break up Google, yes?
Definitely.
All right, we got an agreement. Thanks for being here.
All right, if you don't understand how the female reproductive
Okay,
system
so
works.
pop quiz. When does heartbeats begin for babies in utero?
Have you ever eaten an egg before? Yes or no? Have you ever eaten an egg before?
Scrambled, yeah.
Okay, so would that be you scrambled a full chicken?
Well, hold on. You understand that it takes an egg to be fertilized?
Right, uh-huh.
Yeah,
but
uh-huh. We know deep down it's wrong to murder a baby.
You're not murdering a baby. It's not a baby.
Okay, well let's play this out. What is it then?
It is an embryo, which is not a baby.
Well, okay, so it's a fertilized embryo.
Correct, which
right.
is not a baby.
So at what point does it become a baby?
When it is born.
Oh. Okay, so at 29 weeks, the baby is nearly fully developed, can recognize the mother's voice, has a heartbeat, has brain waves. Is it okay to abort that baby?
It's not okay, but you're gonna say it's okay to have an abortion then. I don't understand what you're trying to say. It's not okay to have an abortion ever? How
Correct.
about 3
Yes.
weeks in?
Correct. No
Right.
abortion. Correct.
Why?
Well, because your life started at conception.
It did not, though. It did not.
Well, hold on. So let's play this out. So who are you as an individual? From your skin color to your eye color to your likes, your dislikes, from your temperament to your everything. But it started with something called deoxyribonucleic acid. And your own individual DNA started at the point of egg and sperm meeting. That's where your journey started. And so from that point in particular, life begins. Not at birth, not at first words, not at first steps, but when your DNA, which is who you actually are. You are your DNA. Every one of your DNA cells is coded XX or XY. It's coded with all of your unique characteristics and attributes that we believe God individually curated for the rest of your life. That doesn't happen at 8 weeks or 10 weeks. It happens at conception.
What happens if you need a medical abortion? If the mother will die if she does not get an abortion? What's your stance on that?
The only place where medical abortion is necessary is before 20 weeks, which is incredibly rare.
What if she will die?
Let's say it's 27 weeks, okay? And the mother will die. Why shouldn't, you could agree, why don't we just have the baby delivered by cesarean section?
Because if the mother will die, it's not safe to do that.
You remove the baby.
I understand.
Threat removed.
I know what a C-section
But
is.
it's actually safer than an abortion. So every time they say, this is for you guys, they say, oh, you need to have abortion for medical reasons, respond, then have a C-section. Babies every single year to just say, we're going to discard them. Why? Oh, they're smaller. They're not humans. You're using dehumanizing language saying, oh, it's an embryo. No, that's a baby made in the image of God, deserving of protection.
What do you do with those children once they're born into a bad household?
So now we've transitioned to what do you do with the kids?
Right.
Glad we're past the other part of the argument, okay? What do you do with them? There's twice as many people on the adoption waiting list than there are abortions every single year. I'm advocating to make it easier to be able to adopt, number one. Number two, there's no such thing as an unwanted child. Number three, it is never right to justify the mass elimination or termination of people under the guise of saying they're unwanted. That's how we get Auschwitz. That's how we get the greatest horrors of the 20th century. Those people are unwanted.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely, I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse.
It's really not. I don't think
it's 45 million babies. It's nearly 8 times worse than the Holocaust. What's the moral difference between a small baby in the womb and a grown Jew who was killed at Auschwitz? What's the moral difference? One is older?
Is a person?
What species is the baby in the womb?
It's a human, but
therefore they should have human rights.
No.
They should have human rights.
I do not agree.
Oh, so small humans, no human rights. Grown humans, human rights.
It's not a small human. It's an embryo.
You just said it was a human species.
It's not a living human child.
Wait, it's not a what?
It's not a child.
But
it's not a living child.
It has a heartbeat. It has brain waves.
That does not make it a child.
Well, first of all, immigration has gone in great influxes
we basically turned off all immigration in the 1940s and 50s. We had like net zero immigration for almost 15 years. Most people don't even know that. So we had Ellis Island in the early 1900s, and then we turned on the guzzle of immigration. But let's be honest, for 40 years, we have tried this mass immigration project for the last 40 years. Has it worked? Are we a more connected country? Have middle-class wages kept up? Look at the material data. Has immigration enriched the well-being of the United States of America, especially the last 5 or 6 years? I would say, of course not, actually. We're more divided, we're more factious, and we see this in almost every European country as well. When you import a bunch of people that don't speak your language, that are from the third world, all of a sudden you have mass destabilization happening in your country. It's not a matter of being xenophobic. Instead, it's a matter of being patriotic to your own country and your own citizens. It's not about hating the foreigner, it's about loving the citizen. And your obligation is always to citizens first, not foreigners. Explain this to me. This is a good question.
Yeah.
What country has ever grown stronger the more divided it's been?
None, but I'm not saying that we have to get more divided.
No, but diversity definitionally will divide you. Unity unifies you. You notice they never say unity is our strength, they say diversity is our strength. In fact, just so we are clear, there is nothing racist or xenophobic to say that you want your kids to be around people that speak English. There's nothing racist to say that. It actually means that you want to be able to communicate with your neighbor. There's nothing racist and xenophobic to say, for example, we don't want to import people from a far-off distant land that don't share Western values, that don't treat women the same, that don't have the same respect for freedom of speech. So what we see is the unraveling of the United States of America, because a country is the people that inhabit it. So you have to be very careful what people you allow into your country.
Sure, but I think that what you're talking about, this like mass shift in American culture, is like not happening. I think you're fear-mongering. And also, I think that the United States forever has been a mix of culture. I don't really know like where you can point to a time in the US history that hasn't included immigrants in its culture.
Again, from the 1920s and 1960s, we had very little immigration in this country, nearly 40 years. In fact, that is what largely led to us becoming a world superpower in the 1950s.
Considering the United States has created mass violence, instability, and poverty around the world, you don't think that we have some sort of obligation to the people who then have to flee from that?
No.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm always so interested in this, as if it's like, you can never blame those countries for not having their act together. It's somehow America's fault. Like, oh, it's America's fault that Nicaragua can't get its act together. It's America's fault, even though we welcome Puerto Rico to become US citizens, like we've colonized them. So here's the paradox.
You don't think that Puerto Rico was colonized?
No. I'm saying no. So if we don't help Puerto Rico, we're evil. When they become a territory, we colonize them, and we haven't done enough. It's like, which one is it exactly? We are the world's superpower. It's not because we've held anybody back. It's because we've had incredible people, really good ideas.
So you don't think the U.S. has intervened in a negative way in other countries?
At times, yes. At times, we've intervened very favorably.
There's been aid, but there's also been terrible coups.
Not just aid. South Korea exists because of American involvement. Kuwait exists because of American involvement.
But to say that certain countries are less developed purely on their own fault is to ignore history.
So that's where we disagree. Okay. Countries have to take responsibility for their own future, which again, this is one of the reasons why so many people hate Israel. Every other country around there is like a third world country, and Israel is super successful and super agenic, and they're able to be like one of the wealthiest countries on the planet. You gotta wonder, what is it that they're doing? Oh, it's the Jews because they're stealing all this money. No, actually they like work super hard, and they don't believe in Islam, and they and like, wow. And the one place
Have you ever been to those countries?
Yeah, actually I have been to Israel, and I've been to the Palestinian Authority. I've been to the West Bank. I've actually visited it. Even if I hadn't, that doesn't mean what I'm saying is wrong, just for the record. By the way, I encourage you to try to go to Lebanon or Syria. Not exactly the Four Seasons, right?
And you don't think that U.S. intervention has anything to do with that?
Partially, but again, to blame the evil U.S. intervention for every single problem is at its core intellectually sloppy. You're mad at America for getting involved in other people's countries, right? So America's bad for that. But then you want everyone to come to America. I thought America's bad. It's these own broken countries that cannot get their own act together. A great example is this, and I'll close with this. El Salvador is actually safer than America. It has billions of dollars flowing into El Salvador. Why? because they elected Bukele, who decided to go after MS-13 and clean up the streets of El Salvador. Which, again, it was because they decided to do good things with massive action. Countries can be wealthy. Singapore is wealthy. You could be a very wealthy country if you embrace Western market ideas, private property with low crime. I look at America as a force for good. You look at everything wrong and you say it must be America.
No, sir. I'm looking at bad things that they have done and calling for accountability.
Okay, like I
mean, maybe we disagree. I don't know.
I guess I think we're a wonderful country, and I think if a country is poor, they're poor by choice, and they have to be able to get their act together, make better decisions, and stop acting like victims all the time. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, you're not. Come on up.
That's a complex issue that I don't
It's not complex. It's not a complex issue.
Okay, I'm not going to answer that because you guys
Well, you
asked me
said
to be on
you're
brief
interested in the
topic.
truth. If you
Yes.
cannot say if men can or cannot get pregnant, you're clearly not interested in the truth.
You don't get to kill a baby just because a human life occurs. Something evil, rape, does not get better when another evil action occurs. And I will say this: somebody in this audience was conceived in rape. Can you tell me who?
You're saying it's a child, but it's not.
What
physically a
species
child.
is it?
It is a human, but
Okay.
But is it a? Has the child formed yet?
But hold on,
become
you're not
a
fully
child yet?
formed. Riley's not fully formed. I'm not fully formed. We actually go through this process of development our entire life. An embryo is just one stage upon human development. It doesn't mean you get less rights just because you're earlier in the human development scale.
I mean, I feel like I do have more rights than a baby that is in someone's
Why does
stomach.
your age give you more rights over an embryo? Why do you have the ability to eliminate a smaller human? Why is that
It's
morally
not that
consistent?
I'm not saying that it's better because it is a smaller human. I'm saying that
I will say Gavin Newsom tweeted this out. The attack on Charlie Kirk is disgusting, vile, and reprehensible. In the United States of America, we must reject political violence in every form. That's right. There are news outlets reporting the worst right now, Glenn. I don't know what I'm waiting for before I report it. You know, I trust Just the News. I trust Deseret. What are we waiting for, like, the AP to say it? We don't trust them more than we trust these. They're reporting that Charlie has died. That he's dead. At the age of 31.
Not counting gang violence. Great. Not counting gang violence. Great.